Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today, we are looking at a really interesting company at the crossroads of, well, the energy transition and that huge surge in beta demand. It's Nuscale Power Corporation. And our mission here is really built for you, the listener. We're going to review their fundamentals, market catalysts, the technicals, everything up to mid-October 2025. And the big question is this stock a good time to buy right now?
Yeah, it's definitely one of the most compelling stories out there. Also one of the most complex, I'd say. Nuscale is really the established leader in small modular reactor technology, SMRs. But it's tough space,
Yeah.
highly complex, very capital intensive. We've pulled together quite a bit of research to really synthesize their financial path and where they sit in the market. High risk, definitely high reward potential here.
Okay, before we jump into the numbers, just a quick reminder. We'd love it if you subscribe, like this analysis, maybe leave a comment. And hey, if there's a specific company you want us to look into for a future show, definitely let us know in the comments below. All right, let's unpack these fundamentals first. Now, this is a pre-commercial company, right? So revenue can be, well, a bit up and down. But what we're seeing suggests the top line numbers are, maybe surprisingly, quite robust. What did the trailing 12 months look like?
Well, what's encouraging here isn't just the dollar figure itself, although that's interesting. It's the velocity of the growth. For the trailing 12 months, ending June 30, 2025, Nuscale Power reported revenue of $56.13 million. But what really jumps out is the growth rate. That's a 62.4% year-over-year increase for 2024.
Wow, okay, 62% growth in a year for what's essentially a hardware and engineering firm. That's impressive. But let's be critical for a second. Is that sustainable revenue? Like, is it genuine sales or more R&D money, government stuff, licensing fees?
That's the absolutely critical question here. And yes, they are still pre-commercial. So this revenue, it's primarily coming from early engineering services, some licensing deals, R&D activities, but it's all linked to their future deployment pipeline. It really shows client confidence, a willingness to commit capital early. And that growth rate, that 62.4%, it just far outpaces most peers in the clean energy tech sector. It suggests they're grabbing a big slice of that early stage spending.
Okay, makes sense. But naturally, with all that R&D, there's got to be significant cash burn. Net losses are expected, sure, but how deep are we talking? And is management actually controlling that burn rate?
Yeah. The net losses are still substantial. For the TTM, it clocked in at negative $124.08 million. However, and this is key, the losses are narrowing compared to previous quarters. And that reflects the company making that shift, from pure high-cost research towards more scaled engineering and getting ready for commercialization. Management isn't just saying they're improving operational efficiencies. You can actually see evidence of better cost controls. Things like supply chain negotiations, streamlining overhead. They're prepping for mass SMR production.
Right, getting leaner. And financial resilience.
Yeah.
That's just paramount for a company basically waiting on billion-dollar contracts to land. What's the balance sheet look like? What's their financial runway?
The balance sheet actually provides some real comfort here. The company maintains a strong, quite healthy cash reserve. And since they haven't started the big commercial deployments yet, this cash gives them a financial runway of about 2 to 4 years at their current burn rate. That's essential. It lets them navigate potential regulatory bumps without being forced into the capital markets too early.
And crucially, that means avoiding shareholder pain.
Right.
Are they loaded up with debt?
Not at all, actually. Debt levels are remarkably low. Our sources show no material long-term debt reported, so their liquidity is ample. They can support the ongoing R&D, the future commercialization efforts, without needing potentially dilutive financing right away.
Which, for you listening, means they probably won't have to issue millions of new shares just to keep the lights on, something that would definitely push the stock price down. The balance sheet looks like a real foundation of strength here.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the cash pile is deep. That's good.
Yeah.
But cash only lasts so long, right? The real question has to be, does the technology justify this huge initial burn? This is where it gets really interesting for me. What is Nuscale's core competitive advantage? What makes their SMR model potentially the winner?
Well, their advantage is kind of twofold. It's miniaturization and, crucially, regulatory approval. Nuscale has really established itself as maybe the top provider of scalable, transportable SMR tech. It's just fundamentally different from those massive, multi-year, traditional nuclear plant builds. Their IP, especially around the integrated pressure vessel and their unique passive safety system, it's very strongly protected. And critically, they've already cleared major U.S. regulatory milestones. That's a massive barrier to entry for anyone else trying to catch up. They aren't waiting for permission. They seem ready to build.
Regulatory clearance is huge, definitely. But partnerships, Those signal real-world traction. Are there specific developments pointing towards this tech moving from like demo phase to actual large-scale deployment?
Yes, and we absolutely have to focus on that October 2025 landmark announcement, the one supporting Entray One Energy and the Tennessee Valley Authority, TVA. This is for a massive 6-gigawatt SMR deployment program. 6 gigawatts. This is the essential groundwork. It's laying the foundation for the very first major U.S. commercial SMR installations. That partnership isn't just, a press release. It's a foundational commitment from major utilities. It turns that technology lead into tangible long-term revenue potential. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the structural tailwinds here are maybe the most compelling part of this whole story.
Absolutely. The macro environment just seems perfectly tailored for SMRs right now, doesn't it? Why is Nuscale's model specifically suited to deal with this global power crunch we're seeing?
It really comes down to the explosion in power demand from AI and data centers. It's almost unbelievable. These facilities need immense, constant 247 power, what we call baseload power.
Wow.
And traditional renewables like solar or wind, they're intermittent. They can't always provide that reliably. And building massive traditional nuclear plants takes way too long, needs huge centralized sites. Nuscale's model, scalable, small, relatively fast to deploy SMRs, offers a decentralized, reliable power solution. You can put it right where the data centers are being built quickly and efficiently. These macro factors just position Nuscale perfectly to capture these major time-sensitive contracts, not just from utilities, but tech companies, industrial users globally.
That makes perfect sense. They offer speed and reliability where maybe the old guard only offers delay. Okay, let's pivot now to the trading floor. Looking at the charts, say mid-October 2025, what's the price action telling us about investor belief in this Nuscale story?
Well, the stock is showing some classic signs of strong accumulation, actually. It's visibly maintained a pretty clear pattern of higher lows and higher highs over the recent period. That suggests underlying technical strength, like buyers are stepping in and absorbing any selling pressure.
Can you walk us through some key technical levels and the momentum indicators? I want to know if this momentum is just, a short-term blip or if it looks like a confirmed trend.
Sure. So we've seen a pretty wide 3-month trading range. It stretches between $11.08 on the low end and $57.42 on the high end. That tells you there's high volatility, but also high interest. Recent closes were around $47.64. The key technical support level traders are watching is probably near $45. Resistance seems to be capping things around $57 for now. But the momentum indicators, they're maybe the strongest signal right now. The moving averages are stacked really bullishly across all time horizons. The 5-day is above the 20-day, which is above the 60-day, and so on, all the way up to the 200-day moving average.
Okay, hold on. What does that stack of moving averages actually mean for our listener? Why is that bullish?
It basically means the uptrend is confirmed, not just on a short-term basis like over weeks, but across months and even longer time frames. The momentum is persistent, it's not just noise. And furthermore, the MAD indicator, that's moving average convergence divergence, it's positive, sitting at 2.194. This confirms that the short-term price pressure, the buying, is moving significantly faster than the longer-term trend. It suggests this recent buying spree isn't just random fluctuations, it looks like an accelerating trend. What's fascinating here, though, is the slight disconnect between this clear technical strength and, well, the formal brokerage sentiment.
Okay, walk us through that caution. We've got strong technicals, this huge TVA partnership potentially in the works. Institutions seem interested. So who exactly is holding back the analyst consensus? What are they waiting for?
Right. It's a bit mixed. We saw one source citing an average analyst rating of buy, but with a 12-month price target of $37.86, which, notice, is actually below where the stock's been trading recently. But then another source notes that as of October 17th, 2025, the overall brokerage consensus rating is actually hold. The caution seems tied almost entirely to those commercialization timelines. It's a capital-intensive business, remember. Analysts are likely worried about the lag time between signing a big deal, like with TVA, and seeing actual, sustained, profitable cash flow. They're probably waiting for that definitive firm order confirmation before they really jump on the strong buy bandwagon. Although institutional buying does remain strong, especially from funds focused on nuclear innovation, green infrastructure, they're playing the long game.
Okay, so if the analysts are kind of on the fence, what are the near-term catalysts? What should we be watching for that could decisively shift that consensus from hold, perhaps over to buy?
The most significant event, short term, is definitely the Q3 2025 earnings release that's scheduled for November 6, 2025. And that call, it isn't just about looking back at revenue. It's going to provide critical updates on the project pipeline progress, site selection details maybe, and crucially, management's outlook for confirmed bookings. That's what people want to hear. Beyond earnings, we need to keep an eye out for potential firm contract updates tied to that TVA Intro 1 program. Things like initial permitting approvals, major supply agreements being signed, anything that proves the pipeline is becoming real, tangible business. And of course, there's always a speculative buzz in the market.
Ah, yes, the rumors. What's the unconfirmed chatter? What's circulating right now that could be an unexpected positive surprise if it pans out?
Well, the rumors point pretty strongly towards potential international commercial SMR orders, particularly from places like Eastern Europe, maybe Asia, where energy security needs are really acute and immediate. There's also consistent speculation about early talks, maybe U.S. Department of Energy grants, or even direct contract awards linked to defense or critical infrastructure needs. That would be huge. And finally, that interest from large industrial end users, specifically those massive data center operators looking for dedicated off-grid power. That interest is rumored to be heating up faster than maybe people expected. Look, if any of these speculative contracts get confirmed, it could dramatically speed up the company's transition from just having an order pipeline to actually having booked revenue. That would instantly ease a lot of those analyst concerns we talked about. But this does raise an important question. In a world with such high expectations riding on this, what are the primary risk factors? What could derail this whole bullish story and really disappoint investors?
Right, the risks. Well, the principal company-specific risks seem to stem directly from the nature of the business itself, don't they? You've got the lack of actual, fully deployed commercial reactors right now, which means continued operating losses until those big project wins finally turn into sustained cash flow. So that cash burn we discussed is going to continue for a while.
Exactly. And even though the core technology is approved, there's always the danger of execution failure when you move to large-scale deployment. Other significant risks include potential cost overruns. That's pretty common in big infrastructure projects. Regulatory delays, maybe not at the federal level anymore, but at the state or local level for specific sites, or even the possibility of project cancellations. If a major partner pulls back, that could severely impact their timeline to profitability.
Okay, of all those risks, which one, in your view, poses the single greatest threat to that high rating we're discussing?
For me, it's probably the regulatory timeline creep, specifically around the initial site permitting and approvals for those first commercial deployments. Remember, the SMR concept, while approved federally, is still new to many local jurisdictions. If that big TVA project, for instance, hits unexpected delays in the local permitting process, that could push back the entire commercial timeline. It stretches that cash runway thinner and might eventually force the company to seek that dilutive financing we really want them to avoid. That's the key execution risk, I think.
Okay, so we've analyzed the robust revenue growth, the best-of-breed tech, that positive technical momentum, the deep financial reserves, but we've also acknowledged these very real project and timeline risks. So what does this all boil down to for you, our listener? Is now the time to buy Nuscale power?
Based on everything we've looked at up to mid-October 2025, the final investment thesis lands on an overall bullish rating of 9 out of 10.
A 9 out of 10. Wow, that seems incredibly high for a company that's still technically losing money, negative TTM cash flow. Walk me through the single most critical factor that justifies that near-perfect rating in your eyes.
The justification really lies in the concept of a competitive moat, combined with first-mover advantage. Nuscale has already navigated that immense regulatory hurdle, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission process here in the U.S., that acts as an almost impenetrable barrier to entry for latecomers. They've cleared that path with what appears to be best-in-class, scalable technology. And it's technology that seems uniquely positioned to solve this modern energy challenge created by AI demand and the push for decarbonization. If, and it's still an if, but if they successfully convert that industry-leading pipeline into actual operating reactors, the stock could re-rate dramatically higher. It would start being valued more like a future utility-level cash generator. The risk is definitely high, yes, but the potential reward, combined with their proprietary positioning, it's almost unmatched in the energy sector right now.
Okay, given that very bullish outlook, how should you, the listener, maybe think about approaching this investment? Is it more of a short-term trade, capitalizing on news? or is it a long-term compounder?
You know, it's genuinely attractive for both perspectives, which is unusual. For a near-term trader, that upcoming Q3 earnings report, potential contract headlines over the next, say, 1 to 3 months, those offer specific catalysts for potential quick gains, if you time it right. But for the long-term investor, it holds a very strong multi-year thesis. It's backed by those undeniable secular trends, global electrification, decarbonization. Those trends ensure that Nuscale, assuming they execute as a technology leader, is positioned to potentially capture compounding gains as this whole SMR market matures over years, maybe decades. Which leads to a final thought. Given this confirmed, almost explosive rise in power demand from data centers and AI, will the pace of SMR adoption actually be accelerated just to meet this need? Could that cause the entire nuclear technology sector to re-rate much faster than the current analyst consensus is allowing for? That's definitely something for you to mull over as you watch the charts and the news flow.
Absolutely something to think about. Thank you for allowing us to go through your source material on Nuscale Power Corporation today. We really hope this analysis helps you make well-informed decisions.